BC, what's going on? It's Friday night, February 27th, 2015. Most likely this will be online on Saturday. But it seems appropriate for me to go ahead and talk now because I'm coffeed up. I just come from a meeting with some students from Creighton University who are going to do a documentary about me, it turns out, a short documentary. But what's cool is most likely one of the focuses of the documentary will probably be my involvement with the VC. Isn't that interesting? This meeting was set up through Tim Guthrie, who is some of you know, is a VC member, kind of the guru of colored vinyl and interesting packaging. He's also an instructor at Creighton University, journalism and art. And it's through Tim that these folks who were students of his made the connection to me, looking for subject matter. I'm pleased that they find me interesting. You know, actually, once we got to talking, we had to decide there are many different avenues of focus that the documentary could take regarding my life. You know, everything from civil rights to the whole black issue. You know, living in the Midwest. But we're gonna most likely focus on my music, my collecting in the VC. That's exciting. You know, I appreciate it. You know, yeah, it's nice. With that in mind, I have some records to talk about, and I'll start with this one. I could have gotten more prepared for this one, but I'll just go ahead and do it. I just received in the mail from Greg Jackson Combs his initial solo vinyl album, Messenger, on Cowdog Records out of Chicago. Greg Jackson Combs is a friend of mine who I met several years ago through working with Kleeman out of Denmark. And Greg is part of the Chicago Acoustic Underground family of musicians. And I've played shows with him, and we've become good friends. We actually perform together now and then with Kleeman. But you know, last year when he was in town, he was talking about how he was having this record made, you know, and was waiting for the test pressing, and it's all done now, and here it is. He sent it to me. Good job, Greg. That's Greg right there. Greg plays the majority of instruments on here. I'm going to show off the label because, again, some of you folks may remember I showed an album by an Ellis Clark on this same label about a year ago on red vinyl. Cowdog Records is part of the Chicago Acoustic Underground. Great family of musicians and artists, led basically by a guy named Michael Teach. Anyway, Greg's main group, Goodbye Home, do an Americana type of sound where it's got a violin, and you can hear the country, and you can just hear the roots, you know, kind of like somewhere in the Bruce Springsteen area. And some of that is here too, but here on this album, and I think I'm going to endeavor to play a little bit. I think I can actually play some of this in the background. I like, Greg, the fact that, you know, I know you're going to watch this, that you show a little bit more of yourself. The roots, your roots come through, but there's also this noisy edge to the mix that I like, where it reminds me of just a little bit of the My Bloody Valentine sort of approach. Kind of like that saturated sound. One of the highlights of this album, Greg, is your voice. Greg has a really, really good voice. He's very emotive. There's a plaintive quality to a lot of the vocals where it's not like he's pleading, but it's like there's yearning. And you know, I do have to say this. I do notice because I make records, I notice little things. You know, you've listened to it so many times, you notice them too. My honest assessment is that, Greg, this is a great first effort and well worth having put on vinyl. I think that, again, if you can get some airplay for this, some promotion, people will like this. My initial favorite track off of here is "Oh Virginia." I like "Thunder" too. Now, I remember playing "Save the World" with you. Last fall, we played some dates in the Midwest with Kleeman, myself and Greg, and we worked up a quick arrangement of "Save the World" off of Greg's album, and we played that live. So I'll leave the link to Chicago Acoustic Underground. I recommend this record, not just because he's my friend, but because the music and the words are things that are heartfelt and a lot of people can relate to. And just like I say about my records, Greg deserves your ears and your money as much as the other artists that always get it. Good job, Greg. I'm gonna leave it playing. Some other records that are sitting out that I've been playing, and there may be something else new here. Oh, a quick update about my next vinyl, Myths and Realities. The expected date is late April. We're not going to make Record Store Day, which I kind of resigned myself to. My partner, Sabas, wasn't happy about it, but I'm just, I'll just be happy to get the record at all. So that's looking like late April with delivery date to me, and then I'll get it out to you folks. I'll leave the link. You can listen to snippets online, and you can pre-order. This is some of my old stuff. In retrospect, this stuff sounds a lot better to me now than it did that I remember, and it's worth having. Whoops. Some music that I played recently, Roots, Joy Division, Still. Just played this. This is posthumous after Ian Curtis's suicide. The thing I'd like to share is that right about the same time my dad committed suicide. So those things are closely linked in my mind, in my experience of this music. It's not so much morbid, but that whenever I listen to Joy Division, those things are connected. I love this music, and Joy Division inspired me so much that I started my band Digital Sex. I'd been in bands before, but Digital Sex was the first band where I said, okay, I'm going to be serious about this. I want people to know. And Joy Division had a lot to do with me thinking that I could do it. Once again, it's out because I've been playing it. Flyover. Shameless self-promotion. I play this music. I like what I'm doing a lot. People can say whatever they want about this and that. My music is good, just the way it is. Gives me a lot of satisfaction to listen to it, and I listen to a lot of music. Here's an old album that, again, has aged well. Merchants of Dream, Strange Night Voyage. This is basically a studio invention. Trying to find the Shadow Morton, a well-known producer from the 60s, 50s and 60s, was behind this project. When you see this online, it's usually listed as psychedelic. This is not psychedelic, because if you buy this thinking it's psychedelic, you'll be greatly disappointed. However, if you buy this and you've been told that this is a sunshine pop concept album makes much more sense, and this is great. It's pop. It's not psychedelia. It's pop. Somewhere between the Association and the Spiral Staircase. I forget what the loose concept is, but this is good. Merchants of Dream came out in 1969. Peter Hamill, the guy who started the band Vandergraaf Generator. I hadn't listened to this in a long time. Vision, this is a compilation that was put out for U.S. consumption when it appeared that maybe Peter Hamill and Vandergraaf Generator were generating some interest in America. So this is tracks from his first, looks like his first 4 albums. Just some tracks put together on here. I love Peter Hamill. Odyssey and Oracle, the Zombies. They had that huge hit Time of the Season, but this album was, again, a bit ahead of its time. A bit of a concept album. The Who, The Pretty Things Come to Mind. This is the first reissue of it with a slightly different cover. This is excellent. Highly recommended. Zombies, Odyssey and Oracle. It even gets talked about in prog circles. But this is pop of the highest order. Okay, here it is. Last weekend, I almost cranked the camera up. I had a visit from a VC member friend, someone I've known but not really known for years. He lives in Lincoln, and for years we would run into each other at shows, good shows. Roger Simonson is his name. Well, last Sunday he let me know he was going to be in town and could he stop by. We had a nice visit. There's some pictures online on Facebook. He said he had some VCLT for me, and thank goodness it turned out I had some things that he wanted, and so we did a trade. But what I got, one of the things he brought me was Andrea Parker, Kiss My Arp, late 90s on Mowax. Real happy to get this double LP. Electro, not techno, a lot of vocals, somewhere between techno and techno pop. Really like the music. It's another example of where the vocals, it's like, man, vocals, just sometimes it's like, just not what I want, just not what I want. The other thing he brought me that I'm really happy about was Ohm Pilgrimage on gray vinyl on Southern Lord. And we listened to it, and he said, you know, if I was giving this to anyone else, I would regret it now that I'm listening to it with you, but I wanted you to have this. This is really good. Ohm Pilgrimage. Really good. Thank you, Roger, if you happen to watch this. Some other records sitting out. We get to talking online, and that will prompt me to look up things, which is part of what is fun about the interaction now. I wanted to say this because I recently watched Stefan Schipper. I hadn't watched any of his videos in a long time. And he was saying in a most recent video how he's not going to comment anymore because people talk about one VC, but he says there are several VCs, you know, and you know, I had thought about, and you know, it's basically true. You know, there's factions, people who interact with one another. Got a short here. Dang it. And then it's like we've all met each other, and then we find people that we have more in common with, and we ended up going in those directions. And Stefan Schipper is one of the people. Stefan 73, along with Mr. Hall of Fame and a few others. Those people were going before I got here. Some people call me like, some people like to think of me as like this big guy in the VC, but those guys were here before me. I just thought I wanted to say that on camera. Stefan Schipper, Stefan 73. Fred down in Australia, I haven't watched him in a while. Mr. Hall of Fame, I haven't watched him in a while. But these guys were here before me, you know. And it is true that, you know, there's factions. There's groups of people who have more in common with one another than others. I'm going to take this off because one of my channels is going out and I got to fix it. But one of those groups that's on Facebook that is a faction, Tony Amuro, Mr. Fartboy 79 is in the group. And these guys are like hardcore serious. They get into some really collectible stuff. So they were talking about Albert Ayler. So I pulled my copy of Spiritual Unity, Albert Ayler Trio. This is a monumental jazz album, free or otherwise. This album, there's something about this album that when I hear it, it's there. They caught it on the recording. It's like the earth moves. This is really something special. There's several different versions of this album. And this is not the very first pressing. It's an early pressing, 1966. But I bought this from a private collector in the 70s through Will Smith, the writer that wrote for Downbeat. And the guy's collection, I wish I'd had more money. It was quite a collection. But besides this being a 1966 issue of it, he also had this very rare pamphlet that comes with the very first edition of the album, Spiritual Unity, written by Paul Haynes, called Ayler, Peacock, Murray, You and the Night and the Music. And it's mimeographed, back before they had proper copy machines. But this was inside. I forgot that I had this inside here till I played it. I mention it because, again, those are the things that make things go up in value. So this is a really nice, valuable copy of this album, but it's just a fantastic piece of music. Amazing. It's like things change. It's just amazing. This is a reissue, Bill Fay. Now, I'm not religious, but this album is very Christian, and yet what I relate to about it is the tortured soul aspect of it, which is, this is just fantastic, you know. It's a singer-songwriter album with strings. I can't compare him to anyone right now. It's just the gravity of him needing to write and record these songs really comes through. This wasn't an exercise in pop, oh, I think I'll make a record. This album is more like someone needing to cathartically do something for their own survival. This is really amazing. And this album, originals of this go easily $800 to $1,000. This is the reissue. Well worth hearing. Well worth hearing. Jacques Curcil, Black Suite. Still performing, I understand. Trumpeter. Part of my big Actuel series. Some could say that after a point these albums kind of sound the same, where it's these guys just kind of just blowing free over skittering rhythms. If you don't take the time to settle down and go with each recording, that can seem to be the case. What I'm getting at is that this is a standout. This is really good. Really good jazz. Pulsimeter. This is a four-way split between Pulsimeter, Date Palms, Faceplant, and Expo 70. Pulsimeter. Daryl Grosh. I don't know if you're still watching. Thank you. Daryl sent this to me through being in the VC. Pulsimeter. Electronic. Expo 70. People know about Expo 72. I like all sides of this, but the Pulsimeter is my favorite side of this. I think the graphics are appropriate for the sound. Here's an album that I haven't heard anyone else talk about, and I think this is good. It took me a while. When I first got it, I got it because of the cover. I found it used. House Castle, Rust of Keys. It was like, what the hell is that cover? You know, a dinosaur with a cracking an egg open or something. Turns out it's acid folk. These folks, I believe, are either Italian or this record was made in Italy. Points of reference, Incredible String Band, Espers, Vashti Bunyan, but raw. I really haven't deciphered the lyrics. Mostly what I've done is I penetrated the atmosphere. Howth Castle, Rust of Keys. This is pretty cool. Matter of fact, actually, I'll open it because the gatefold captures it. It's kind of mystical, and that image captures it. The last couple of videos where I've been showing records, when I have a chance, I go back and annotate them. So I will try to remember to annotate this one so you can see the titles. If you can't understand my words, you'll be able to see the titles. Here's another one where I got this years ago cheaply just because I wanted to just try it out. The name of the band is The Difference. The name of the album is on the Contempo label. Great cover. Musically, I'm still not sure what this is about, but it's a keeper. I still couldn't tell you what I heard when I just played it a few days ago. So that to me tells me it's like, okay, there's still something here for me. Love the cover, The Difference. Old German rock from the 70s has been figuring into my listening a lot because of discovering like-minded people online recently who, a couple folks who I'm just now meeting, have incredible collections of this stuff, originals. This is not an original. This is a Nexus Quam. The original, which is on Osmos, these are flaps that open. And I took a picture of my reissue and showed it in the Krautrock group and asked if anyone has an original, they show it. About 4 or 5 people posted pictures. I love it. I love meeting people from around the world who know this music and have it. Spacey, jammy sound on this one. Worth investigating. Here's an album that starts off really poorly, in my opinion, and gets better. Either Orchestra. Radium. I showed this online. Turns out that Roger Coleman, who's in the VC, knows one of these musicians from when he was living in Boston and mentioned that to me. Cool, because this album starts off tepid. The first track, I think, is why this album is not regarded. Born in a Suitcase is the first track by Russ Gershon. I think that's who you know, Roger. And it's like they should have left it off the album. You know, it's kind of a blues, and it sucks. And I'm saying it that strongly because after that it just goes way up. This is really good. Large ensemble band with horns. They do a Roscoe Mitchell track. Roscoe Mitchell from the Art Ensemble of Chicago. Again, if you only hear the first track of this album, you'll be put off. If you skip it, you'll buy it. This is good. Radium. Either Orchestra. And again, this is probably something you can find for nothing still. Soft Machine's been on my mind a lot, and I don't have a lot of the solo stuff because I sold a lot of it like an idiot. Like Elton Dean, the sax player, I used to have his first solo album, which is very collectible now. I had it too soon. I still have this one. Elton Dean Quartet. They all be on this old road. This is badass. This is just English jazz, free. It's got heads, and then they blow free, and then they come back. And these cats can blow. Keith Tippett, Louis Maholo, Chris Lawrence, EDQ. Collectible label too, Ogan. Might be the only thing on that label I have. That makes me think of Anders in Stockholm, if you happen to see this, Anders. Hey. Another album that came to light through discussion online, and it was like a rediscovering. This was a rediscovery. Gas Mask. their first album. Now, this is my second copy of this because I got this originally as a teen, as a cutout, because it sold for shit, and so I was able to get it. Look at that hideous cover. In my opinion, that's just a hideous cover, which I think is the problem. People see the cover and they think it's got to be terrible. Well, if you look closely, look who it's produced by. Produced by Tio Macero, the guy that produced the majority of Miles Davis's most famous albums. Another point of fact about this album, if you know anything about jazz, European jazz and ECM, you've probably heard of a trumpeter named Enrico Rava. This is where I first heard of Enrico Rava, was this band, even before I knew about ECM, or about the same time actually. This is really good, and my recent play of it just proved it to me. It's like this is being overlooked. Matter of fact, there's some beats on here, okay? But this band sounds like Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Chase, Ides of March, and really good arrangements. There's a couple of instrumentals on here where you can really hear the degree of musicianship in here. I would say that the band could have used a better drummer with more flair. The drummer does his job, but it's like Enrico Rava, for example, when they feature him on the album, it's like I can just imagine him later when he has better musicians backing him. But this is, if you see this and you're interested in what I mentioned, you know, buy it. Gas Mask. Terrible cover. I was fortunate to find another copy of this cheap because I got rid of mine too soon, the original copy. Slope by Tenko. Tenko is a vocalist. Gradual Disappearance. Tenko, Slope, Gradual Disappearance. She has some heavy cats on this album, and that's not the reason to buy it, because they do their job on here. The first person that comes to mind to compare it to is Yoko Ono. So that's a warning, okay? Her vocal style is raw and very powerful and naked. So it's like you have to decide, you know, this woman has something to offer. Am I going to be put off by her brash bluntness, or am I going to go see what happens? I haven't played this in a while because it's tough. But when I put this on last week, I ended up playing the whole album. It's really good. The music is hard to describe. It's very, very imaginative and always changing. And there's a lot of music besides her voice. When her voice comes in, it's always kind of rude. Obviously on purpose. Slope. Tenko. Galactic Supermarket. It says featuring Klaus Schultz, but it doesn't feature Klaus Schultz. These are tapes that were made by the owner of the Ohr label, Rolf Ulrich Kaiser. The story has been written a few times. And, you know, a bunch of musicians on this label all got together partying, dropping acid, and he just ran the tapes. And they're just jamming, and you can hear it. There are moments where it comes together, and there's moments where it's not together. And most of the musicians on here objected when they found out that he had released this without their permission. I'm glad I have this one. I'm certain I have another one. There's 4 in the series. I can't find the other one, but I know I have... this is Galactic Supermarket and Planeton Sit-In. I know I bought it same time I bought this. I just can't find it. I hate that. This is, if you're interested in the history of German space rock, you'll enjoy this. I'm really glad I have it. And one of the people involved on the album, Harold Grosskopf, who actually has his own albums out. I forget what band he was in. His name is on here, Harold Grosskopf. He is a member of the Facebook Krautrock group, and when I posted this, he and I are friends. I don't really know him, but you know, he accepted my friend request years ago. He piped up and said, "Oh, I was involved in that," and so I went ahead and said, "Hey, Harold, tell us about this." And so he does. He gives us a first-hand account. of what happened, and sure enough, they were off their heads, having a party, you know. This wasn't intended to be released. Moondog, Lewis Hardin. Another one where discussion online led to things. Glowing Double O Cabbage, a comment he had made about the fact that it's known that Moondog was homeless. And Jeff said, you know, something about him being lost. And that just immediately struck me as like, he's homeless, and so therefore automatically the assumption is made he's lost. This man was a genius. He was a classical composer. He lived the way he lived by choice. And the genius of his thinking is on this album, other albums, writings, people that knew him. Moondog, very percussive, awesome. Moondog. I love these discussions because they, you know, online, they just bring up so many different things, you know. Potemkin, French band in the Zool tradition like Magma. Triton. This is completely instrumental. I love it. Mid-70s, progressive, lots of time changes, but not nerdy. Good compositions. Good music. Not changes for change's sake, but because these people have ideas. Weather Report, I Sing the Body Electric. This is their second album. When this first came out, this was a real challenge to everyone, including me. I liked it, but it was a challenge to understand. And even all these years later, it still sounds like music of the future. This album came out like 1972. Still, quite a bit of this sounds fresh. Weather Report, I Sing the Body Electric. Excellent cover for the sound of this album. Pull This, Boris, one of those bands that morphs between being metal, hard rock, drone, experimental avant-garde. And here's one that is in the drone area. It's Boris with Merzbow. Clatter. Got this autographed by the band. Well, I bought it at the last time I saw them. The fidelity of this recording is low, and I don't know if it's because it's on purpose or because they wanted to capture something and this was the only way they could capture it. The performances on here are well worth hearing. It is noticeable, the low fidelity, though, to me. And again, it may be part of what you're supposed to hear. Bjork. I don't have much Bjork on vinyl, but I have this limited edition Earth Intruders 12-inch set. What album was this from? Well, anyway, it's a great package. 2 12-inch singles, DVD, CD, really fat packaging. I don't want to open it now because in opening it the first time I ripped that, but it's a beautiful package. Bjork is someone I admire. I have to be in the mood to listen to her because her voice, I get tired of her voice pretty quick, to be honest. But her creativity and her aesthetic, I am down with 100%. Polish band, SBB, very much inspired by John McLaughlin's Mahavishnu Orchestra. They have several albums. This is the only one I have on vinyl. New Horizon, Now Horizont. This is fantastic. SBB. Fantastic. That's all I gotta say. This is one of my all-time favorite albums of all time. Joe Zawinul. This came out in 1970. And I couldn't afford it at the time, but my friend Everett, I'll say his name, Everett Levison, we were going to Creighton Prep, which is an all-boys prep school here in Omaha that I went to. I got a scholarship the first 2 years because I was a straight A student in grade school for several years. That experience has a lot to do with my mindset about corruption and about seeing through the veil of bullshit here in America, because I've seen the real side of the elite and what they're really like. Black people and people that don't have nothing, we don't mean nothing. We're nothing. But anyway, this album reminds me of that because my friend Everett and I had to work part-time to pay off the other part of our tuition at the all boys junior high. And I can remember several nights after finishing my janitorial duties and waiting for a bus. It'd be twilight, the sun's going down, and I'd sit in one of the classrooms on one of those classroom record players and play this and just be transported to another world. Zono, fantastic album. One of my top, if I had a top 25 or top 50 albums would be really hard for me to put together, but this would definitely be one of them. Definitely would be in the top 10. Just incredibly, just takes me to another world. Woody Shaw, one of his best trumpet solos I've ever heard, is on this album. I think I'm just about done. Ipikatka Band. Here's something that I had heard the name Ipikatka related to the band Tasavallan Presidenti from Finland. So when I saw this album years ago, I just bought it. You know, Ipikatka, I wanted to hear it. This is jazz rock, more jazzy than rock. No one talks about this. You know, how you hear about albums becoming collector's items and talked about among people. I don't know why. This is better than several albums that people like. Bosco is one that people just babble on about. Bosco, how good it is. This is fucking way better than Bosco. Just as an example, for my taste. And do I value my opinion highly? I sure in the hell do. I sure in the hell do. I think I know what good music is. Ipikatka Band. If you ever see this, ooh. Another one that I used to see it all the time for nothing. Now it's collectible. Dereck, Knockout. This is a knockout of jazz rock. Warren Livesey on sax. Tasty. Dave King on bass, who for a time was in Amandul, as well as in the band Embryo. So there's that Germanness to it. That's all I can say. This is just the 70s period of rock. It's just probably because of my age and my youth, but there's just something special about it for me that I love the sound. And this is one of those albums. Dereck, Knockout. Fantastic. On the MPS label. From France, Patrick Forgas, Cocktail. Another fantastic progressive rock. He sings, he's a drummer, and he's highly influenced by Robert Wyatt, even sings like Robert Wyatt. This is excellent. Progressive. The B-side is My Trip. Sidelong, epic journey. Fantastic. Members of Magma play on here. Gerard Prevost, I believe, was in the band Zao. This is just fantastic. 1977. Cocktail, Forgas. Yeah, I've been playing some good records. This lady passed away, unfortunately, very young. This is in a whole nother vein. This is Drone Industrial, Carolyn Kay. Now Wait for Last Year, on the Nocturnal Emissions label. This came out 1982, I believe. No, 1987. She died a few years later. I don't know how she figured it out, but this album is... it's amazing. The first song is like, wow, she's just getting everything right. The Happening World. This is amazing. Ambient. It's an ambient drone masterpiece. It's the only album she made, and then she died. Carolyn Kay. Drone, ambient, electronic. Hear this and you tell me what you think. This is out. I haven't played it. It's a collector's item that I found. It's listed under children's records, and I bought it used because of the cover. And what it is it's the kaleidocosmic, or it's this contraption that this guy put together, and he plays a lot of oldies like Zorba the Greek and Malagueña. The kaleidophonic sounds, this... Anyway, it's listed as entertainment for children on Discogs. You know, I've kept this because it's so unusual, and it's obviously an original, rare private pressing. I recently looked this up on Discogs, and I have an original pressing of this. Red vinyl. There's been a couple pressings of it. The reason why I know this is original is because it's signed by the artist. Merry Christmas on this side. This is one that at some point, if I can get the money that it's listed on Discogs with a pretty high price. If I can get that, I'd sell that. This also is inside of it. An order blank for more records on this label. So I've got an original intact. Not much to listen to for me. Just about done. Okay, is this the last one? Oh no, a couple more. Okay. Last two albums. Embryo is another German band I was just mentioning. Here's an album they made with the No Neck Blues Band sometime in the 2000s. And what these are, it sounds like improvisations, but these people really know how to improvise. They know how to let the music take over. And both sides of this are just fantastic. Improvisation, starting off slowly, acoustic instruments with some things that are sawed and bowed, so you get this droney thing with interesting percussion. The picture shows obviously the things that they used. This is excellent. Embryo with the No Neck Blues Band. The last album I'll show is one of my Grail pieces that I'm glad to own. Balletto di Bronzo, Il Balletto di Bronzo. This is an original. Some people consider this to be one of the best progressive rock albums ever made. I won't go that far. This is bombastic and must be heard. It's very powerful and unique and over the top a little bit. The band reformed, so they're going again now. Very keyboard oriented, but very Italian. Not that I'm Italian, but if you hear this, I think you know what I mean. Very emotional, you know, and awesome. And this is an original with the book. It's in great shape. It's in mint shape. These things go for, I think I just saw it listed on Collector's Frenzy for $300 to $500. Most recently, these were selling for. That's just fun to say, you know. I do take pride in, even though I've been through a lot of changes with my collection, I take pride in figuring out a long time ago that I kind of understand, you know, what's good and what's not good worldwide, you know, and that my knowledge, you know, I do kind of know. There's a lot I don't know, but there's stuff I do know. So we got a 43-minute video, and I've talked a lot about music, and I could talk even more, you know. I've had just a few orders recently. They've really trickled down. My music, just the way it is, recorded in this room for the most part, with my limited knowledge of engineering and everything, I'm extremely proud of it, and it's as good as anything else out in the world today. You know, like I said, I'm feeling this stronger and stronger. You know, I'm listening to a lot of music. I'm listening to the mainstream. I'm listening to tracks that are getting hype and promo. And my music is just as good. It's better than a lot of it. And The other thing that I keep thinking, which I'm just going to express here, I've said it before, but I'm just going to express it, and it may rub people the wrong way, but I got a right to express this because it eats at my craw. It pisses me off. A lot of people who aren't buying my records now, you suckers will be buying it, will jump over each other when I'm dead. A lot of people die who made music and nothing happens. The records. This is not my ego talking. I know this is going to happen. When I die, my records, people are going to want my records. Because they're unique. Because I'm different and because of my story. Someone will be able to make a cottage industry out of my story when I'm gone. And it pisses me off because I see this happening all the time, that artists' value goes up when they die. And it's like, I have my audience. I have appreciation. But do you hear what I'm saying? It's like there's a whole lot of more of you people that you'd buy it if I died. Why wait? And one more comment, if this happens to be seen. 2 different members of the VC have recently gone on record to say that they think that Sonospheres is my best album. 2 VC members. I appreciate that they like this, and I appreciate their opinion. But it also kind of cuts a little bit, because as the artist making the records, I know this is not my best album. And I don't know why people are put off by the electronic beat music that I've been making on Flyover and on Murphy. Flyover is way better than Sonospheres. I made this music. I have the latest. Sonospheres number 3 is online now. I want to put it out on vinyl. I had a VC member, upon his first listen to Sonospheres 3, again, without not really listening, because I busted him, he went back, he said, "Oh, it's no, Sonospheres 2 is way better." That's bullshit. You didn't listen. And I said so. If you see this, I won't say your name. You remember the conversation, friend, right? You went back and listened, and you said, "Oh, I don't always quite get where Dereck is coming from at first." And that's because I am offering something here. This is my blood, sweat, and tears, this work. It is. I'm not going down the typical beaten path. I don't want to wait till I'll be dead, so I won't be able to appreciate being discovered by people who will be saying, "This guy out of Omaha was making this fantastic music. It doesn't sound like anybody else. Really well produced." I'm here now, and this is true now. For those that are put off by these statements because they seem so egotistical, that's just too bad, because what I'm saying is the truth. And I'm saying it while I'm still alive, Why wait till I'm dead? Let me enjoy this. Buy my records now. They're fucking good. All my records are good. They are. I listen to music. It's not my ego. It's my ears talking.